Hey, Sunshine Parenting listeners, and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. This week, I have another walk and talk episode with my friend Sarah Salsa Kuljis. We're hoping that you'll strap on your walking shoes and join us as we share encouragement and ideas with each other and with you.
Hello, Salsa, Sarah.
Hello, Sunshine.
So this is our Salsa and Sunshine walk, 7 of our recorded ones, which is so cool.
And we took a little bit of a scramble to get here today, but it feels really good to be here now and to work out just a little bit and get our blood flowing in a different way and be able to talk to each other and to you.
No, thank you. And yes, if people had seen, I actually should have done recorded us before, because it could have been those funny outtakes of how both of us have just had a scramble of a day and just so much going on right now and a lot of work. But here we are. And I'm so glad, like you have said before, that we've committed to this because we wouldn't be doing it otherwise, right?
You're exactly right. I'd have punted for sure.
Yes, which is so easy to do, but this is one of those things that not only are we getting our really important exercise, we're also really getting that social connection that we both really need.
It's true. We got teased by our husbands this past weekend. Audrey and I kind of overdosed on social connection and exercise in the very best way. And our guys got a lot of exercise. And I think my husband used less words all weekend than he usually does. So
gave him a break, right? Okay, well, we'll get to that really fun stuff about, I bet a lot of stuff will come out in our highs for the week, right? Because we've got some really good ones to share this week. But let's go ahead and just start introducing people. So first of all, if this is your first time joining us, this is a Salsa and Sunshine walk and talk. We are summer camp directors, joy chasers, good friends who like to get together and talk about all things, ideas, resources, just for living this one life as well as we can. So we do this a lot. We do it mostly unrecorded, but we have decided this spring we started inviting you along on some of our walk and talks. So we've now done, like I said, I think this is number 7. And we really have the intention to provide encouragement, resources, ideas, and we're hoping that those of you who join us listening to the podcast will put on your walking shoes, go out for a walk as you listen so that you feel like you're in conversation with us too.
Yep. It's fun to know that others are walking with us. It's energizing that way.
Yeah, it is fun. And we just love to talk. So anyway, we're inviting you along on our walk today. So the first thing that we always start with is an affirmation idea. This is something that Sarah is incredible at teaching about, giving positive affirmations to kids and to loved ones and to everyone. And so each time we do one of these, you share one. So Salsa, what do you have for us this week?
Well, this week's affirmation, you may not initially think of it as an affirmation, but it really, really is. I have noticed, I've had the opportunity in the last month or so to talk to some young people, some children and teens, and several times a young person has shared with me something, and then something hard, maybe something they did, something they regretted, and they will say, I still feel badly about that. And I was struck that even as a 10-year-old or a 14-year-old or a 18-year-old, we can start collecting those regrets and living with kind of the sorrow of letting someone down or hurting someone. And it dawned on me that often the person they hurt has moved on, but that young person has not. And so my affirmation for us as parents this time around is when we can tell that our kids are still hard on themselves about something, regretting, feeling badly, maybe a failure, maybe something they said that was hurtful, that you have moved on from, it's really appropriate, and it's a huge gift and affirmation to say to that young person, I think it's time that you forgive yourself for this. I have. And just to have someone who they trust, possibly who they hurt, say, I've already forgiven you. It's time for you to put that down too. I think what a great habit we could teach our young kiddos and our young teens, that they have to forgive themselves as they're practicing forgiving other people. So that's my affirmation for today. It's time to forgive yourself for that. I have.
Oh, and I think I love that. And I think even as adults, we have things, I mean, I don't know about you, but even things that I've tried to forget, like trying to whatever, you still are hardest on yourself, right? In your negative talk. And so just even as a parent, to model that for your kids, that something that you continually come back to as being hard on yourself, maybe just flip it and just be like, I forgive myself and look at how far I've come, or look at what I'm doing now. Like, I'm doing so much better with this particular thing, or whatever it is. So that is a lovely, pretty deep affirmation, but so good.
Well, and I love the point you make, that we need to be modeling forgiving ourselves for our kids. And sometimes we might share that with an adult friend or a spouse or something, but our kids need to see us bounce too.
Yeah.
That was good.
Oh, love it. See, inspired every time. All right. So now this is going to be extra fun this week, friends. And hopefully you'll just be happy for us and not too jealous. But we're going to share we always share on these walks our highs and lows of the week. And something that we also encourage you to do, if you have a friend that you can call up regularly, or you text once a week or every day or whatever, to maybe get into the practice of sharing the good stuff that's going on and the hard stuff, so that you really are finding out where everybody is. So Sarah and I do this every time we talk, whether we're with you or not. So on these walks, unprepared, we have not talked to each other in advance about what we're going to share. So I'm going to let you go first with your highs and lows.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with my low this week, because my high connects to it. So my low this last week is just a heartbreak, and a good friend, a dear friend, had her first grandchild this week, and the birth was difficult and complicated, and this little baby is still in the NICU, and things have not gone as you hope they would. And so this little one is pretty compromised. And it's just a heartbreak, because as an adult, we can't lift that from the baby or the baby's mama. And all we can do is stand with our friend and be supportive in prayerful and practical ways. So that was a hard low. But my highs, and Audrey, Sunshine, you don't even know this yet, but I have 3 highs, and I could not decide. So you get all of them. But my first high is about that baby. Oh my word. The doctors keep saying, she's a new baby today. She's a new baby today. This little baby is now responsive. Her NG tube got taken out today. She is breastfeeding. Her eyes are open. She's accepting comfort and holding. She's alert. Like, this isn't supposed to happen to a baby in this situation. And the precious part of the NICU nurses to tell her mommy what a great mom she is. She is the most attentive parent in the NICU that they've seen. And that just filled mommy with reassurance, because she's scared, and it's been hard. So, wow, what a week with this little one. And it just gives me hope. And so that's a super duper high. 2 other highs. My daughter got her driver's license yesterday. Whoop, whoop. And so that's my 3rd and final kiddo who needed a driver's license. And I'm so excited. That is so good. And you moms who are carting your kids around, and dads who are carting your kids around, you know what I mean? So that's brilliant. Plus, she's a really good driver. So I'm not going to bite my nails every time she leaves the house. And then, Sunshine can fill a little more in on this. My other high was last weekend. My good friend, Sunshine, really, really encouraged my husband and I, and she and her husband and another camp director couple as well, to get away for some R&R and talk about resting parts of ourselves that needed rest, and talking our heads off and walking our heads off and laughing hard and filling our sails. I'm so grateful for last weekend and for a friend who knew I needed the push to do it.
Oh, I love that. Well, yes, I'm going to just piggyback on that, starting with some highs, and I'm going to do multiple ones too, since you did too. Yes, the weekend was so good. We are, all of us, all 6 of us are longtime camp owners, directors. We've known each other for decades. And this has been an unbelievably challenging year due to the pandemic and not being able to operate our programs last summer. And we're all gearing up for this summer, and we are so excited. And it's a big challenge, obviously, and lots of work. And all of us tend to be very thorough, very hard workers. We're great camp directors. That's why our families trust us with their children. But that can lead to not taking important rest time once in a while. And I really did feel that, especially before this summer, it was nice to have a little bit of a break between, okay, we're going to rest just a little bit, and then we're going at it really hard for the next, 4 months. It's going to be May, June, July, August, full on, don't get any rest. So do it now. So anyway, I'm so grateful for that time. And Sarah alluded to it, but we got in massive salsa and sunshine walk and talks, unrecorded. One day we ended up getting lost and ended up going 9 miles. And it went like that because we can walk and talk, can't we?
Well, and the talking contributed to the getting lost because we missed our turnoff. But then we discovered such a groovy beach.
Oh, we sure did. So it was like the oasis that we just needed. It was exactly right. Anyway, it was just fabulous. And I too really am so grateful that we all were able to travel, that we're vaccinated, that we could take a little bit of time. I, of course, was trying to get everyone to take a little bit longer, but we basically ended up with a long weekend. We went Thursday to Monday. So we got a little bit of extra, but it was still very good. So that was a high. Other highs, and this is just kind of falls in the category of remembering to be grateful for things that before you wouldn't have been grateful for. So yesterday I got to see, for the second time this month, my son play lacrosse. And it's like I just sitting there in the stands, with all the other parents with their masks on, watching our kids play, just being outdoors, and watching our kids just running around and sweating and getting knocked around. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful for kids being able to play sports, for my kid being able to play sports, to see them all out there cheering each other on. And you know how they do that stuff where they like bump into each other after someone scores and all that stuff. And it brings me so much joy. And I almost think about how in the past when, this is my youngest child and he's the last one doing any sports like this. He's a high school junior or whatever. And I am so like the person now that's like, every single time that I get to watch my son do any sports the rest of this year and then next year for his senior year, I'm just going to be so grateful. I do not care whether they win. I am going to just remember that this is awesome, that they're together on their team, working out together. It's crazy, but it's just so awesome. And I think I'll just share, it's just been a good week and a couple weeks, but the low is re-entry has been quite abrupt. And to the point that even though I have spent, and this, I have really worked hard over the past year to create this very wonderful, semblance of balance in my life with starting my day with a restful routine and all these things, right? And then today, which was my first day back, because after our weekend, I visited my parents. So this was like officially my first day back, like at work. And boy, slammo whammo. I mean, most of the day on a Google connection with coworkers, working on stuff. It was just, it was fun. Got a lot done, but I neglected to eat. Barely got up to go to the bathroom until it was like crazy. I was like, what are you doing, sunshine? Like, get it together. Like, you can take a break. It doesn't have to be a whole weekend. So I'm seeing that although I've had a year of practice going into this summer, I'm going to have to be very intentional and probably get an accountability buddy to not fall right back into the old, not so healthy routines.
It's I appreciate that you shared that, Sunch, because man, it is so easy to fall back. It's hard work to move forward, and that feels so good and gratifying. And then in just 24 or 48 hours, I'm racing and don't have time to make that call or do that walk, and bam, there we are again. So yeah, those old habits and the needs that are met from those habits, they die hard.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same way, that it's like, as things open up and as things start going again, do you put everything back in the exact same way that it was before? Or are there some lessons learned from being forced to slow down that you want to keep? I know for me, and especially at my age, I know that some of these lessons really need to stay in place for my well-being and to be good at my job as a mom and everything. It requires it, but it is really hard with kind of the pressure I've always felt to be there for everybody and get everything done and all that stuff. So it's a bit of a challenge. I'm a bit disappointed in myself today, but tomorrow's a new day, and I will try to stay focused, and you can keep me accountable.
I'll do my best, but do as I say, not as I do, because
I know
I may not be a very good example.
But at least we're here. And this was the thing too. Even today, we were a half an hour late or even more, mostly my fault, because I was still trying to finish something up. You were trying to finish something up, but we made it. So, and this is so good, because I feel like another thing that I've learned is it's really good to have like transitions. Like, you go from your work day, and then like today, hopefully this can be the end of our work day. Like, we met each other, we'll spend the evening with our families, in the morning, get back at the work. That would be ideal, right? It's not the middle of summer. We don't need to be checking email late into the night tonight, right?
That's right. So good. Well, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we talked a little before our recorded chat today, that something that I really wanted to just talk a little bit about, and unrelated to COVID, because we're all sick of COVID and sort of COVID related stuff, is just screens and unplugging, and how we're all feeling about this, and maybe share some of our strategies, struggles, whatever. And I want to make sure, and I will put in the show notes for this week, some really amazing resources from the Children's Screen Time Action Network about Screen-Free Week, which is next week, May 3rd through the 9th, I believe. And they have so many good things. They clearly understand at this point that so many kids can't be screen-free because they're online, but they have resources and ideas. One thing that they've been sharing a lot about is having screen-free Saturdays. And as you will attest, I tried to make our group screen-free some of the time. And that was hard. We didn't do, it's hard to get people off their screens, even adults. And I will just say that I struggle with my screens. I get sucked in just like the next person. And so this is a topic that I've shared a lot about. I've researched, written, so excited that kids at camp are screen-free for a few weeks, yet I still struggle with it. So let's just talk about just kind of screens, and we don't want to make it a guilt thing. Like, let's just talk about them and some ideas. So I know, Salsa, you had some kind of ideas you wanted to share.
Oh, sure. Well, gosh, there really are a lot of resources online on screen, with all kinds of tips and ideas of how to use screen-free time well and make screen-free time attractive. Everything from, spending time outdoors and challenging kids to be creative with their hands and build or do crafts. And but a couple things that really stood out to me was just that reminder of when we can, keeping screens out of the bedroom. We have friends who've got a television in each bedroom, and that's their family choice, and that's great. But it's such a temptation, especially for younger kids, when there's a screen there. And we have friends whose marriages are actually getting a little, compromised a little bit when there's a screen in the bed, right? And so just remembering that if your bedroom can be an oasis, if your child's bedroom can be an oasis, that's awesome. It's hard when, say, you have a high schooler or a middle schooler and they're studying in their room. Then what clever way can you come up with when the studying's done and bedtime is coming? How can that space be, transitioned to that quiet, restful place? So that was one. The second was not forgetting the power of chores. We're at camp, our campers do chores. They have cabin cleanup and they set tables and they, have opportunities to give to the whole community. And hopefully in our homes, our kids have their chores too. They walk the dog or they water the plants. But sometimes when life gets busy, or even kind of during COVID time, we let some things slide. And so I was even noticing, like, my gosh, I haven't had my kids clean their bathroom in a really long time. Okay, let's get back to our chores, because we were all like sucked into our screens. So don't forget the chores. They're wonderful life lessons in chores. Reminds us that we contribute to our family and to our community in that way. And then the last thing that really landed on me was how much of a bad example I set very often. I work sometimes at home and sometimes at the office. The school emails are coming and I'm trying to stay on top of those. I check on my mom and her caregiver via text. I'm on my phone a lot. And so how am I, or on my laptop, how am I modeling for my kids? Work is done now, or I'm 100% listening to you now. I'm going to put that phone down. Often I will tell them, but then I'm still checking with the doctor's office. And so just being cognizant, again, not a big, beating myself up, and we shouldn't beat ourselves up, but in what one new way can we model thoughtful screen time ourselves? One way that you might consider, my husband and I read a lot of news, and we read it on our phone now. Well, do you remember being a kid and on Saturday or Sunday morning, especially before church, the LA Times and the comics would come and mom and dad would sit with their coffee and we'd all read some section of the newspaper, right? So what if we, just for a time, got the hard copy newspaper on the weekend, and just for a time, not read the news on our phone, but on a newspaper? And there's something to that, something cathartic about it. Then you can use that newspaper for crafts. And anyways, that's just a fun little clever suggestion that perhaps we can do that. I think it gets more challenging, this whole screen thing, when it gets to middle school or in high school, when so much of their life is online, including studying. And I would challenge all of us to involve them in our screen-free planning so they have ownership. They may come up with the best way to have screen-free time that we haven't even noticed. So I know a 16 or 17-year-old is going to have buy-in, or she's not going to love all my guidelines that I'm crashing down upon her. What do you think, Sench?
Yeah, I think all of that is so good. I totally agree. I was thinking that there are some good tools. I know that my kids, once they went to college and had their, you have to have all your devices are in your room with you in your dorm room or whatever, but they use some of the good, like, tools like the do not disturb and different things. So I think put those to work for you. I recently added like the sleep function. I don't even know, some app, because I have an Apple Watch. And so I wanted to see if I could do my sleep, whatever. But what's really interesting is it said, when do you want to sleep? And then it sends me a reminder and actually kind of turns off my phone. My phone goes dark to do not disturb like 45 minutes before. So if I happen to be getting sucked into something, everything kind of like notifies me, and it gets me, I'm like, oh, right, okay, time to plug this in, go get ready for bed, get my book, whatever. So I do like those tools that we can put to use for us. Like the screens are pretty amazing that they have all these apps and stuff. So anything that our kids or we can put to use for us to help us is great. So I like that. I really like, and I've always shared this with people, the replacement idea is powerful. So instead of focusing on time we're not going to be on screens, I like focusing on fun things that we're going to do instead. And they, on the resources that I'm sharing at screenfree.org, it's amazing. I mean, they have some things like no touch screen-free summer games, 55 nature-related screen-free activities, fantastic sports, and a whole bunch of different things, 101 screen-free activities, screen-free bingo. I mean, there's literally a plethora of resources for, maybe more younger kids, but also I think older kids could benefit from them. They also have some neat tools like pledges you can take as an individual or as a family. So if you were trying to do a period of time where you were all trying to be off or on your screens less, I'm thinking you could make it like, even with teenagers, some kind of fun competition of sorts. Like all of our phones list our time. So maybe we could all, try to reduce our time or see who can have the least time on non-work related things. I just think there's some different fun ways that we could do this to kind of motivate ourselves. I know I have one daughter in particular who many times has just taken all social media off her phone, the apps. So not deleted them completely, but just taken them off for like 30 days or 2 months or whatever. And then just seeing how to incorporate it back in. You can get out of the habit. It's funny because even on my phone, it has been showing me that I've been like going to Instagram too much, because it'll pop up and say, usually at this time, this is the app you're on. So it's like telling me, and I'm like, oh, yuck, I didn't really want to be on it at this time. So I think just all those different tools that we can use as adults and our young adults too. This is going to be a lifelong practice, figuring out healthy screen habits for our relationships. We want our kids to be in relationships with loved ones and friends as adults, that they don't have their screens there and they're talking to each other and having these great interaction. So we need to model that and then help them with that. So really, again, no guilt for anybody, because I know if I had very young kids right now and was trying to get work done while they were home all the time, I was a big fan of putting my kids in front of a Barney with my oldest kids. That's how old they are. But, like in front of a video once in a while. It's just having some things, even if it's very short, that are outdoor, like you said, outdoors, fun. And we all leave our phones and maybe don't even take pictures of it, just experience it, right?
That we might have to do a meal without a phone. We won't be able to post that pretty plate, but we can remember the flavor and not get interrupted, right?
Totally. But anyway, I do highly encourage people to look at some of these resources. You do not have to participate in the whole thing, but maybe there's some part of it that you want to think about. Maybe you want to incorporate something about their screen-free Saturday ideas. Could be that, over the summer, you try to do a hike or a bike ride or something on Saturdays that gets you all off your screens. So just an encouragement to all of you, because I do think we have all been screen saturated to the point of craziness. And some of us, and some of our screen time, and not all screen time is equal. I really learned that from Devorah Heitner, who wrote Screen Wise. I had her on my podcast a couple of years ago. She's awesome. But just really thinking about, like, if you're creating something or connecting with another person, those are good uses of screen time, right? If you're editing a video or creating a photo album or whatever, or talking to a friend, those are all great screen uses, especially when you can't get together in person. So it's not like we don't want our kids to ever be on screens. It's just we want them to start making wise choices about how they're spending their time in general, not just on screens.
Good. You are right.
So let's just wrap up with, I don't even know how long we've been going, I'm sure too long, but my inspirational quote for this week, had to do it. One of my favorite of all time is from Anne Lamott. And I'm sure most of you have seen this. She says, almost anything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. And I have been inspired by this quote. I have several times done 24 hours, no screens, different screen challenges. During the summer, I'm really grateful at my camp. Phones are not allowed on camp premises, including for me. So I do not have my phone in my pocket. It's in my desk or on my desk. It's not with me. And I really love that. And it helps me with my screen habits a lot, because once you get out of the routine of just kind of the checking, it's pretty easy to stay. And I think for campers, I've heard from many of them and staff that if they're intentional about it, they can figure out after camp, after they've been off their screens, how to incorporate it more wisely.
It's amazing how many campers, after 2 weeks or more without screens, they will leave camp saying, Salsa, I'm going to get back on slowly. I'm going to go one whole more week, because it feels so good not to have the pressure, especially of social media or what did I miss out on, all the FOMO stuff. And I just love their own little spirits that want to keep that up. It's hard to sustain it for too long, I realize, but just that they know about themselves, that when they're not overly connected to their screen, they feel kind of more of their best selves. And we can keep reminding them of that and reminding ourselves, because I'm the same.
Yeah, it's a real gift to let your kids experience some screen-free time, whether at camp or on a family vacation to a remote place that has no Wi-Fi or whatever. It's incredible for all of us. It provides some much-needed rest, and from the FOMO, from the crazy monkey brain, I call it, just that too many ideas constantly coming in and not enough time to sort and reflect, So anyway, so good. So any parting thoughts for us today, Salsa, before we sign off?
Oh my goodness. Parting thoughts. I guess I just would wish for us in the coming weeks, as life opens up and gets busier for us all, which is a really good thing, but that we are thoughtful about filling all of it up too soon, and perhaps leaving some extra space and not going back to our pre-COVID crazy schedules, but keep some pace and space for our mental health and our emotional health, our physical health, and for our family health.
Oh, love that. So wise. So many things to link to from this, because we've talked about
totally
in episodes and in our race driving kids workshop and all that. Okay, everybody, you know what? Thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this walk and talk. I hope you consider maybe curtailing some of your screen time in the next weeks or for the rest of your life, whatever. And we just hope for you that your life will be full of both sunshine and a little bit of spicy salsa too.
Everybody take good care.